Okay, this video is going to show you how to make a drawing file here in your Inventor program. The first thing you'll need to do is open up your project file that you're working on, and Inventor will open. You'll click on the drawing. So we're going to make a new drawing. It's going to ask us to put in our name and period number. So enter those and click OK. What will appear is our drawing sheet. Our drawing sheet here is 8.5 by 11. In some cases, we'll need to change the size of the sheet. In order to do that, you'll go up into the browser on the left and right-click on 8.5 by 11 and go to Edit Sheet. If we need to alter the size of the sheet, we'll change the size to a custom size, and most likely you'll need to change this to 14 inches wide, which is a legal size piece of paper. And click OK, and it will change the size of the sheet. I'm not going to need to do that for this, so I'm just going to cancel. So once you have your sheet size set, then the first thing you'll need to do to make a drawing is to click Base and find the file that you want to make your drawing from. So I'm going to pick this plane cube part. And what's going to appear is the object, and we're going to need to turn it so that the front is facing towards us. So in this case, this is the front. If we needed to turn it, we would use this view cube, and we can alter which side we're looking at to make sure that it is indeed the front that we're looking straight at here. Now the front view is always going to go in the bottom left corner. So the other thing I want to check besides for are we looking at the right surface is the scale. So some of these shapes and these things that you'll draw are going to be too big for the paper if we do a 1-to-1 scale. That means real life, real size, actual size. Sometimes we might need to make it half the size or maybe twice the size. For this, our 1-to-1 will work just fine. So this first view is going to go in the bottom left corner. The front view always goes in the bottom left corner. Above it, we're going to put what we see from above. So we're going to look at the top of the cube. If you notice here, there's a little green dashed box around where we're going to put our next drawing. So we're going to click in the top left corner and make our other drawing. And to the right of the front view, right here, we're going to click again and make the right side view, so looking at the cube from the right. And then the last one goes in the top right corner, and that is the isometric drawing. So it's the 3D model, the way we would be looking at it in real life, kind of at an angle. So the other things I need to make sure I check is the hidden line on these drawings should be showing, and the object should not be shaded. So right now it's blue background on this button. I want it to be grayish, so it is not shaded. And I'll click OK, and you'll have these shapes here showing the object with just lines to represent the edges. Sometimes this isometric drawing here is shaded. So if we go to View 4, the last one here on the menu on the left, and we right click on it and go to Edit View, we can make that one shaded. So we can click this button here and click OK, and that individual drawing will be shaded and the rest will be left alone. So once we have a drawing created, then we're going to need to label some parts. So in the Annotate tab here at the top, that is to add notes. That's what annotate means. Sometimes we'll need to make dimensions. So some drawings here are going to need dimensions to be graded correctly. So we're going to click Dimension, and there's a number of ways of making dimensions. Let's say we need to tell what length this line is here. We can simply go over the line, and when it highlights, we can click on it and we can drag out away from it, and it will give us a dimension. Now the first time you do a dimension, it's going to come up with this menu. If you don't want that to keep coming up, uncheck this box, which is what we're going to do. So it measures from this point to this point. Now, we're going to need measurements from this corner to this corner. So we could click on the little green dot and go from corner to corner. And the reason being is that we can't measure just this part of the line, because if we put my mouse over that line, it's going to try to measure the whole line, which we don't want. So if we click that line, see it's trying to measure the whole thing, we have to go from corner to corner. And we have a little problem here with our number. It's on top of the 1. So we can click on the number, and we can actually move that to the other side. And notice how my arrows representing the distances all line up with each other, so things are nice and neat. So I can continue on with measuring things that are required, and your instructor will let you know which drawings you need to measure things and put dimensions and which ones you don't. And so you would continue doing that with whatever would be appropriate. The next thing that you'd need to do in your drawings is you do a parts list. So if we click up here on the ribbon on parts list, it's going to ask us, what do you want us to make a list of parts of? So we can click, we already have a drawing open, so we can just click this, and it's going to take all the parts from this drawing of this cube and make a list of it. On this menu right here where it says BOM view, if we have more than one part, we would need to change this to parts only, and it would list just the parts. So we could click that. In this case, I just have one part, so there's no option, but we'd want to click and change that if we had more than one part. And at this point, I can click OK, and it's asking me where do I need to put this list of parts. I'll click up here at the top, and it'll place that list. So the more parts, the longer the list. Right now, my drawing's in the way, so I can move everything down a little bit. So if I put my mouse right around this box that encapsulates the drawing, I can move things down and away so then they're not on top of each other. So I can move those and just space everything nice and neat, and that's good right there. Okay, so now I have a parts list for my parts, and the last thing I'll need to do is then label those. So that's the balloon. Creates little circles that label the parts. So what we want to do is do auto balloon on this menu. So click auto balloon. And here on this menu, we're going to first start off with select view set. And all that's doing is asking us which drawing do we want to make a label on. So I'm going to click on my isometric drawing. This one right here is called the isometric drawing. I'll click on that, and then it asks add or remove components. So I'll take my mouse and I'll highlight everything, and then it'll ask me to select placement of my labels. So I can click around, and if I have more than one label, you'll see a whole bunch of circles, and they'll be able to go around the object. If I want them to be horizontal alongside the object, I can pick horizontal or vertical, and they would make them going vertically around the object. So for this, I can simply, since I only have one object, one part, I can just click and keep horizontal and click somewhere, and it'll label that part. And once I get those kind of in the right place, if I have a whole bunch, they might be on top of something else, that's okay. I'll click OK, and I'm able to move those manually if I need to. So the idea is to have your bubble not on top of something else, because it's very hard to see. You don't want it up here. You want it close to the object, but out in the open, away from other things. So in this case, I only have one object, one solid part. These were all different parts that make up this cube. Then there would be separate parts on the parts list, but this is all one solid object. They're just colored differently. So once you get that done, you basically have your drawing finished. In order for you to send this and have it graded, you would need to first save this. So we do save as, and we would give this a name. So this would be like the plane cube, and we'd name it drawn. I already have this saved, so I'm not going to save it. We'd want to save that. And then the last thing is to do an export. And we go down to the menu here and go to export, and we want to choose PDF. And we'd also want to save that as plain cube drawing. Now this PDF file is the one that you'll send in Canvas as a submission to get graded. If you try to send it as something else other than a PDF, it will not go through. So you want to make sure you do an export PDF. If you have any questions, please see your instructor.